and I get to help women like step into their intuition and heal grief and move into new echelons of their business and their professional development. Like it's such a dream come true. Yeah. And the thing is, if you're not looking for the right cues and clues and it doesn't feel effortless and aligned, then it's just not going to happen.
I'm Jenna Kutcher, and I help you trade hustle for purpose and build a business that gives you the life you actually want to live. From a $300 Craigslist camera to a seven-figure business I run from home, I've learned that success isn't just about what you do, it's about how you live. Here, you'll get strategies that work, systems that give you your time back, and steps that turn your effort into results and impact. If you're ready for clarity, confidence, and a business that feels as good as it looks, you're in the right place. This is the Goal Digger Podcast. Have you ever had a gut feeling that you just ignored, only to realize months later you maybe should have listened? Or maybe you're sitting in a decision right now or a pivot and you're paralyzed because you don't know if you can trust yourself. Today's guest is here to help you find your way back to that inner voice, the one that has been drowned out by the shoulds, the strategies, and everyone else's opinions about what you're supposed to do next. Sheetal Story is a psychic medium, spiritual grief support counselor, and a professional astrologer. But she's also grounded and business savvy with a master's in coaching and a business degree from the University of Alberta. She's worked with entrepreneurs who are stuck, burned out, or in major life transitions to help them break through the blocks, keeping them from their next level. She's also worked with me. And here's what I love about her. I love a million things about her, but she doesn't do surface level woo. She goes straight to the heart of what's actually holding you back, the grief that you haven't processed yet, the identity that you might be clinging to, and the fear that's louder than your knowing. And she helps you clear it so you can finally come back home to yourself and trust yourself again. In this conversation, we're talking about some of the hard stuff, like how to know when to pivot versus when to push through, how to stop manifesting the same painful patterns, how to release the guilt of wanting something different than what you've built, and how to start listening to your intuition again after years of being told you're wrong. If you've been second guessing every decision, if you're craving permission to trust yourself, or if you're in a season of transition and you just need someone to tell you it's going to be okay, this episode is for you. Sheetal, welcome to the Goal Digger Podcast. So a lot of entrepreneurs I know are in this place where they don't trust themselves anymore. Like they've been burned by their own decisions or talked out of their gut instincts so many times that they've just stopped listening. So let's start off with, how do you start trusting yourself after you've been wrong or you've been told that you're wrong?
So interesting, because this question is, so first of all, intuition is like the game changer. It is my core conviction. Of course, being a psychic medium, it's sort of the go-to thing for me. But I started out in corporate, and I have a business degree. I started in corporate for many years. I was an executive and ran teams. And that intuition, though, was always in the back of my mind. And like, we are born with intuition. It's our birthright. And yet we're trained out of it at such a young age to listen to everyone else. And we create, from a psychological space, we create from this place of safety. So when you're young, you have two needs. You have the need of authenticity and connection. And if authenticity challenges connection, then we will give up authenticity so easily because we need our caregivers to love us and to have us feel safe in the home. And so if that's not, authenticity is not cultivated and encouraged, as I know you are doing that with your girls, is that we will just continue to opt for the A's, the golden stars, the achieve to receive. And we become these women that are designing our identity through our worth. And our worth is determined externally, not internally. So really the legacy work of coming back to your intuition and coming back to this North Star that's within you is actually a deconditioning of everything externally. So when your intuition is never wrong, and I think that there's inherently a really interesting part of your question there is like that mind making it wrong means that you're judging your intuition, and your intuition doesn't judge. It just knows, right? You just know what to do, but we forget that we know because we're trying to fit in within a framework that we think is what will keep us safe. So there's so many high-powered, smart women who are achievers and have businesses, especially entrepreneurial women. Ooh, we are so headstrong and
We are a
so mentally
breed.
driven, right? So we were wanting to get it right and we're wanting to do it in a certain way. And it's your intuition it doesn't do that. It goes according to what is your next step, and it doesn't make sense sometimes. So we have to bring the safety. Like, I think it's important to note during this part of it is that we have three intelligence available to us at all times. And we have our mind, which is, we all know the mind very well, right? Its only job is to keep us safe. That's it. So it does things in the known, and it does things that kind of create as much certainty as possible, which is the past. So, and we as entrepreneurs do not want to create more of the past. We want to create something that's new. We are driven by a soul's desire, this North Star.
Yes.
And this is where you're supposed to go. And so, but the mind is trying to keep you in the past. So it's not really the best guide as an entrepreneur. And then the second intelligence is your body. And I know you've been on a huge healing journey to heal your body and listen back to your body, because it's always going to tell you what's real and what's not. Right. And especially if you've a gut response in human design, which we'll probably touch on in a moment. But that gut response piece will tell you this is a yes or this is a no. But if you're not listening, or you have a terrible gut because you've been not eating because your body's telling you don't eat the dairy,
Yes.
which I love cheese so much. I get it. Then your body is going to be out of whack. So listening to our body is so important. And the other part of this is if you've had body trauma where someone has violated your space or you've been assaulted in some way, then your body might not feel like a safe space to be in. So then we go back to the mind, and we like to stay in the mind because the body doesn't feel safe. And then the third intelligence is our spirit. And our spirit is what energizes the entire thing. It's the energy. And if you think that's too woo-woo, let me bring you into science, because the science says that there's an energy field that animates, that surrounds all living things. And it's called your bioplasma field or your electromagnetic field. It surrounds every living thing on this planet. And when you take your last breath, that field of energy is gone. And what we know is energy cannot be created or destroyed. So that energy is cohesive. And I know it to be conscious because I speak to it while you're in incarnation and after you have taken your last breath. So that energy field is the storehouse of your emotions, and it has your wisdom that's leading you every single day, but you're just not able to listen. So healing allows you to come back into that intuition. And when you realize that you put your intuition first, because we have to put our intuition first, then our body second, and then our mind third. But we as entrepreneurs always like to put the mind first, right?
Yes.
So it's in that we heal ourselves by trusting ourselves, right? And that trusting of self is when you said we don't make the right decision, somewhere along the way, you lost that trust in self. So I really believe in like the body, mind, spirit trilogy, but we have to put the spirit first. And we do have to make sure that the mind feels safe to move forward with the intuition. So we need to have the mind.
Yeah.
We can't just be like, I'm going to give my money away and run down the street naked because it feels nice. We have to be like, okay, we are living in a climate where that's probably not really safe or not conducive to our goals.
Yes.
And we need them all three together. So if we come back to your original question, it was, what do we do when we feel like we're not listening to our intuition? Is that correct?
Yep. Or that we've made a wrong decision, like we don't trust it anymore.
And so the wrong decision, when you think that something is a wrong decision or something hasn't happened for you, then you're missing the lesson in it, because everything is happening for you. So even if I'll give you an example. I have a client who is in my membership, MA Academy, and she had sort of shared in the membership that her goal, her dream was to move to Vancouver Island, which up here in Canada is a beautiful island. And she's always felt this calling to go. And she's a single parent of a young boy. And she's like, I know I'm going to be there. And that's an amazing dream. Like, put that on your vision board and let the how organize itself. That's your North Star. How you get there is going to organize itself, and you're going to know it when it comes.
Yeah.
Everything is going to align to make that easy, right? And she's like, sure, that's going to be great. I'm excited for it. And then next thing I know, it's September, and she's like, my intuition failed me. And I said, what happened? Like, we were so in this great place of dreaming and possibility. She's like, I moved out to the island. I said, it was Mercury retrograde. So as an astrologer, I would never recommend anyone making a big decision when Mercury, which is the planet of the mind, communication, is going slower than the earth. Like, that's not a good time to go.
Yeah.
And I said, what called you? What did you think that all the stars were aligning? What did that look like for you? And she said, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So I sold everything. I got rid of my lease, put everything into storage, and I took my son over the summer to Vancouver Island. And we couldn't find a place to live. I couldn't find a job. I ran out of money and I had to come back and beg for my job. And luckily, the landlord allowed me back on my lease. And she said, why? Why would the universe do that to me? And I said, because you misread the cues. That was not timing. Timing to me is that you got an amazing job that was going to move you out there and pay for your move. And your son found an amazing school out there that he's going to thrive in. And you got a house that was amazing for you at a song of his price that was just so great for your budget. And everything aligned to have your stuff move out there. And the life was going to be created with ease and flow. She's like, oh, yeah,
That was
I
not
didn't
what I
feel any.
did.
Yeah, that's not what I did. And so that like is reading the cues. Like when something is aligned, it's going to all come together with effortless flow. And I think our mind really likes to make it now. Is it now? Is it now? When I became a professional astrologer, before I left my job, I was, all these gifts were coming in. So a little bit of a backstory is ever since I was young, I could see energy around people and spirit. And I come from a very spiritual culture, which is East Indian. I'm Hindu by religion. And so that is celebrated. It comes through my mom's side of the family. My mom is a spiritual healer. So it was never kind of weird. But I noticed when I was 9 that it was weird. Everyone could not see spirit like I could. And so I was like, okay, I need to put this away because I want to be normal. An East Indian growing up in Canada, it's not, I didn't want that for myself. I'm a first generation Canadian. I just wanted to fit in. So I let go of all of my gifts. My mom said, you can just close the door and your gifts they'll not speak to you anymore. And I said, great, I want that. Yeah. So went through university, got my degree, met the man of my dreams. We moved to Vancouver, had a child, moved back to Edmonton, had a second child, and then all of my gifts came back in. And I was like, what is happening to me? I thought I was nutso. And so I went to a psychologist. They're like, no, you're fine. I went to get my eyes checked because I was seeing more. They're like, no, your eyes are normal. I was having headaches. The neurologist like, no, you're fine. And then someone said, I think you're a psychic medium. And I was like, what? No, no, that's not. I'm a sales rep in the food industry. Like I'm supposed to go back to, corporate. And I'd taken a step back in my career to have my kids. And a friend of mine said, you need to go see this astrologer because she's a world-class astrologer, lives in Edmonton. I was like, world-class lives in Edmonton? Really? She was. She wrote 10 books and she had proctored exams all around the world. She was on every association. My beautiful mentor, Chris McCrae, who's now in spirit. And so I said, sure, went to this lady's house and she's like this little wee, like 4'10", big glasses. She was 82 at that age, still smart as a whip. And she answered the door. She said, come in, come in. And I sit in her study with all these books around. And she looks at my chart and she's like, what did you say you do? I said, I'm a sales rep in the food industry. And she's like, no, that is not what you do. And I was like, I see dead people. And she's like, yes, that makes sense. And she proceeded to read my chart and tell me things about myself that like nobody would know. Yeah. And I said, how? What is this magic? And I left her office going, I need to take up astrology. Like I need to know this magic. And it took me 6 years to certify and become a professional astrologer. But each year I would go back to see her. And I'm like, is it now? Can I leave my job now? Can I leave my job? Because I just wanted to help people. Yeah. I knew it in my heart. So I just wanted to go. And she's like, it's not now. This is not a good time. Saturn's going through your second house of money. No, it's not a good time. Pluto's going. I'm like, my second house is
when
so
will they
full.
sign?
When is it time? I was so anxious. And had I not had those tools, I would have jumped too soon. And then I would have put my family in peril. And I knew I would never do that. And I said to my family, I will never leave a job that has benefits and a reoccurring salary. And so I'm not gonna. And my mentor is like, Sheetal, you just need to hang tight. Yeah. So then COVID hits and I got released from my job because I couldn't see clients during that time. And that was the start of my entrepreneurial journey. And I haven't looked back. I incorporated the next year and we've just been growing exponentially. And I get to help women like step into their intuition and heal grief and move into new echelons of their business and their professional development. Like it's such a dream come true. Yeah. And the thing is, if you're not looking for the right cues and clues and it doesn't feel effortless and aligned, then it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of pushing it, like
Yes.
knowing that everything, so that's one thing is divine timing. The second part of it, though, is everything is happening for an opportunity.
Yep.
So if, say, you decided to take on something that didn't pan out, it actually did pan out for you.
Yeah.
I remember my very first launch of
Yeah.
my very first membership, nobody signed up. And I was like, okay, this is just data. This is just
Yes.
data.
Yes.
What didn't go right? I
Yep.
didn't have my audience primed. I didn't have the value in it. I was shaky in it too. It starts with energy.
Yep.
So my intention and my energy starting out was very, very shaky. And I think a lot of entrepreneurial women don't understand that when you start a project, the intention and the energy and the astrology of the time can
Yep.
really permeate your entire container. And we sort of talked about, how that works for you in your years and stuff as well.
Let's talk about it. I mean, so for context, so I met Chital going to a conference and I had signed up for this amazing conference. I love Ashley who asked me to speak. And I asked my mom if she wanted to come with. And about 3 hours into the drive from the airport in snowstorm, I was like, what did I say yes to? Like, what is this? And in the back of the car, we pulled up all the other speakers and we saw your name. And I said, I'm meant to be here because of this woman. It was the weirdest thing. And my mom, I was like, this is the gift. This is what it is. And it was so real. After we spoke, we all like put on pajamas and went to a room and Chital did like a reading. My mom was in tears. I mean, it was a
Everybody was crying.
beautiful experience and life changing. And that was when our like relationship and work began. So, I mean, Chantal has been a mentor in my life. She's a friend and just someone who has spoken into it. So, what are we going to speak about today?
So this is interesting because I did want to talk about how we met, and I wanted to know your perspective
Yeah.
because the first words you said to me was, "I know I meant to meet you," and I
Uh-huh.
was like, what?
Yeah.
Jenna Kutcher knows who I am? Like, what is this? So I used to do a little bit of modeling and acting when I like first moved out to Vancouver as
Yeah.
well, while I was, finding my way. And I had to get my etiquette license to work with, on sets and things like that. And they teach you in that to never look the talent in the eye, never ask the talent any question, because there's some talent that
Yeah.
just has this like
No.
mentality that like they don't want to talk to you or
Yeah.
your energy kind of can really throw them or they're just in some weird psychotic place. Let's be honest. So I've just been told my whole life that, like don't make a big deal about it, whatever. So I knew, you and Dr. Jody were kind of the big name keynotes for the event. And I was like, I was the MC of the event. And even the way that Ashley had asked me to be it, she had a dream
Yeah.
and asked me to be, I was in the dream as the MC. And I said, are you sure? Like I've
Yeah.
emceed a lot of weddings.
Yeah.
I have no problem speaking on stage. And she's like, no, you're my person. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh my God, that feels like a gift in itself. And then when she said to me, and she's given me permission to share this, but at the beginning of the year, she had a reading with me. And in the reading, I said, I think you're bringing back your conference. And she said, I don't know if it's this year or not. And I said, well, either which way, it's going to come back.
Yeah.
And, if you think about like your amazing keynotes, the people that your dream people that you would want to have on stage, if you approach them and it all falls into place, they say yes and they want to come out. And then the venue, because she was looking at this beautiful venue in the Rockies. And I said, if the venue has the date available and the speakers are available and it all works within your budget, then that's the universe green lighting you. And if it's not now, then it's not now. And that's
Yeah.
okay, right? But it's really allowing the universe to right time you versus your mind making up all these scenarios. She said, yes, that's a good idea. So then she messaged me one day, it was early. She's like, my keynote, she didn't tell me who you were yet. She's like, my keynote just said yes to me. And she never travels. And I was
I
like,
never
wow.
travel.
I know. And that's what I was like, what I was so curious. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you
Yeah.
is what made you say yes to coming to Canada? And it
I
was the
have
winter
no
time.
idea. I literally have no idea. And I mean, it was a haul to get there. Like,
It's
we
not
like
easy.
drove to Minneapolis. We had 2 flights and we had a 3 hour drive. I have no
Yeah.
idea, but I just said yes. And my mom came with, and it was like, I have no idea. I don't know.
That's intuition. Like
Yes.
that is
I just was like,
100%
let's go
intuition.
for it.
Because what are the chances we would meet in like the forest in rural Alberta? Like it
Yes.
was so funny. So she had said to me, so my side of the story, how this is serendipity, at its
Yes.
finest to bring
Yes.
two souls together that have known each other for many, many times and many lifetimes. And so I get there and okay, we're organizing everything, lots of behind the scenes stuff for events, which is always pretty crazy. And then, ready to be on stage. I know you're going to be coming in the afternoon. We're in the green room on the side of the stage, and you walk in and you literally like throw your hands up and you're like, hello, it's so good to meet you. And I was like, okay, she's giving me the green light to hug her because I'm a hugger, right, too. And the way that you hugged me,
Hmm.
it's like soul's remembrance.
Mhm.
That's how I can say it. Like it just, I was like, whoa, I've known her before. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not going to be creepy and tell her that I know that I love her already. That's going to be weird. She's going to figure it out in time. And it's funny because you said, I'm here to meet you. And I was like, are you, wait, what? And she's like, and my mom is here and she wants to meet you too. I was like, what? Your mom? What? Like, I was just floored. It's again that serendipity and everything coming together. And I said, I'm sure she must like be mistaken. Like I really did, think that. And then the other keynote, bless Dr. Jody, did not like me right away. Like I can do that to people
Yeah.
because I'm a psychic medium. People might think I'm a quack and they don't understand. I also have a business degree and I have a briefs about counseling. I've got the psychology and the coaching and certificates up the wazoo. And I was like, it's no problem. I know when people are like, I'm going to love them and they're going to love me. I just
Yeah.
know it. And I have to wait for the right timing on it. I'm
Yeah.
not pushy and I'm just going to hang back. And so with you though, it was like, okay, we're going to talk later because
Yeah.
I know things are going to happen because it was like a soul. I just wanted to talk with you and sit
Yeah.
like with you in that energy of like, tell me about your life in this lifetime. Like, because I listened to your
Mhm.
podcast, I bought your book and obviously, like I got to know about the keynotes and stuff. And I had listened to you for years, but in terms of, your heart, I had felt that you had a kind heart, but being in this industry, there's a lot of people that are on stage that have a persona on stage, but then different off. And I am who I am, regardless of where I am. So
Same.
that's, you're getting me. And yes, I saw that in you as well. So afterwards, the event goes off without a hitch, and then they whisk you away to do the VIP stuff. And, we're trying to close up some stuff. I get to my room and I'm in the furthest possible room on the resort. Beautiful room, but still I have to shuttle everywhere because it like can't hobble in the snow. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna lay on this bed for a little bit. I'm like, maybe they don't really need me. And I got a call and said, they were waiting for you. Are you on your way for this is the speaker's dinner afterwards,
Yeah.
right? And it's at Ashley's cabin. And I was like, okay. And it was in pajamas. So changed into my pajamas. I shuttle it over and I'm about to leave my room. And I grabbed my cards and it was my manifestation cards that I was going to do readings for. I just kind of had this feeling like it was going to be, people were going to ask. So I pulled my cards out and I heard Spirit say very loudly, do not take your cards. You will not need them. And I dropped them back into my briefcase and I walked out the door. So I walk into the cabin, everyone stops talking and looks at me. I was like, ooh, they are expect. I mean, as a psychic, I can feel when people
Yes.
need something of me. And I can feel that there was this kind of like people anticipation, potentially. And I was like, I have just worked all day, as an
Yes.
MC on this set. Like I don't think I'm going to be reading, but I felt bad. Here's this like the empath in me sensing what people need, but then also going back to like know my boundaries.
Yes.
So I took a plate, I took a plate, going around getting all the little canapes and stuff. The food was so good. And then everyone just started back chatting and stuff. And the conversation was so good, so good. And then everything got quiet. And Ashley looked at me and said, did you bring your cards? And I went, no, I didn't. And there was like a, oh, like from the collective, oh. And I said, but we can play a psychic game if you
Yes.
want. And everyone jumped up and said, yes, let's do it. Let's do it. And the game was it's actually one that we do either like with kids or people who are a little nervous because you're sort of drawing a reading. I won't tell too much about it in case
Yes.
anyone does it with me in the future. But it was so telling because you think that you're drawing this thing, but it's actually your energy is permeating the page. And then everyone folded it up and we gave it back out to everyone and they interpreted each other's pictures without knowing whose it was. And everyone was giggling and laughing. And some people were having a hard time being in their intuition because they're like, I just see the page. And I'm like, feel what the emotion is, feel what the different segments are, talk, like think it through and but also feel it through. So afterwards, then I took all the pages and I started reading for people. And the very first one was so potent that something that came out of the reading was something that she had never shared publicly outside of therapy, if you
Yes.
recall. And we held such beautiful space there for her to just release that. And it was like she left something behind in that cabinet that day. Like her
Mhm.
business took off, her life took off after that. But it started it off, right? She was the first one to cry. And then it just, and I said, like, tears are sacred. I'm so honored
Mhm.
when tears fall in my presence because it feels like you're safe to release this and it's energy and emotion.
Okay, it is officially that time of year. And if you run a business, you know the holiday rush is no joke. I've done more Black Fridays than I can count at this point, and let me tell you, orders at 2 a.m., inventory updates, refreshing my site, hoping it can keep up. It never stops being intense. That is exactly why I use Shopify. It keeps everything running smoothly when things get their craziest. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names to entrepreneurs who will be participating in their first Black Friday Cyber Monday this year. They've got ready-to-use templates, AI tools, and support available 24/7 so that selling stays simple even during the peak madness. And ShopPay's quick checkout, well, it's a game changer. It means way fewer abandoned carts and way more happy customers. This Black Friday, join the thousands of new entrepreneurs hearing for the first time with Shopify. Sign up for your free trial today at shopify.com/goaldigger. That's shopify.com/goaldigger. Go to shopify.com/goaldigger and make this Black Friday one to remember. Let's be real. As business owners, we know a reliable connection isn't optional. I've had my fair share of slow and lagging internet, and let me tell you, nothing kills your groove faster. It is the ultimate productivity killer. You can't process payments, you can't talk to clients, and your team feels stuck waiting on you. Back when I started my business, I learned pretty quickly that things only run as smoothly as your connection does. And that's why I love what Spectrum Business is doing. They get it. They know that reliable systems keep your business running, your clients happy, and your stress levels low. Spectrum Business offers internet, advanced Wi-Fi, phone, TV, and mobile services built for your budget. And here's the best part. You can get free business internet forever when you add 4 mobile lines. No contracts, no added fees, just dependable service that keeps your business moving forward. Visit spectrum.com/free for life to learn how you can get business internet free forever. Restrictions apply. Services not available in all areas.
And so that was the start of it. And you said, I need to work with you. I need to learn more about you.
Yeah.
And my coach was in the room and she's like, this is what she does for me. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God. Like I felt like I was receiving so much from that day that it was very overwhelming for me because my own wounds are I give and give and give, right? I give to receive, like,
Mhm.
receive belonging and accolades and things like that. But this felt like so much. It was so beautiful. And then you contacted me and we worked together for a year and I got to like really know your chart and your human design. I do human design and astrology combined coaching. And it was so fabulous because there were so many things that came up for you that year. And I could feel like as we're leading into now, because it's
Yep.
been 2 years, right?
Yep.
You're going into the second year after our work together, but I knew that you were disengaging from something. And it's one of the hardest times to be in an entrepreneur's life. We call it a
Mhm.
12th house year, which is funny because I just came out of my 12th house year. So
Ooh.
you were a guiding light for me.
Mhm.
And your 12th house is your final house in astrology, where it is like a disengaging, a dissolving. It's like the cocoon stage. And I think we often romanticize transformation and transition in spirituality. But one thing that I think that nobody talks about is it sucks. Like
Mhm.
it effing sucks because you're disengaging from all the things that you thought your identity was and nothing that you thought you loved, you love anymore. You know, friendships are changing, your body is changing, your business is changing, and you feel like you're going crazy because nothing that you had passion for before is making you feel passionate anymore. And
Mhm.
that's on purpose. That's a 12-year cycle in astrology that we all go through.
Yeah.
So this is why I love astrology so much, because it has these cycles and meanings that we can understand. Like my girlfriend right now, if you're born at the beginning of Aquarius, you are going through it. Like Pluto's going over your sun, which means that you are literally, you're peeling away your identity. And it's a painful process. So if you know a beginning degree Aquarius, go give her a hug, give her
Aw.
some love.
Yeah.
But my girlfriend, my best friend, she's a beginning degrees Aquarius, powerful shaman, and she said if I didn't know you and I didn't know astrology, I would think I was going crazy. Like
Mm-hmm.
literally, I had to check myself into an institution. But she said because I understand what's happening for me, I'm letting go of things that I thought I once loved.
Yeah.
And like she literally wants to like give away all her clothes.
Yeah.
Like you just went through a massive reorganization of your wardrobe, right?
Yes.
To
Yes.
align back to your true colors. And
Yeah.
like you're coming into a real knowing of yourself now in this cycle of your life, which I think is so beautiful. I'm so honored that I got to walk through you through that phase because I could say to you, like, this is coming. This is okay. You're meant to release these things. And
Hmm.
even though you've built it over the last 12 years and think, like, can I let this go? And I think that goes to also like thinking that you're going to get it wrong. You
Yeah.
can't get it wrong.
Yeah.
That's the mind playing a trick on you. There's no such thing as wrong. There's the scenic route to get to
Hmm.
your goal, or there's a fast route. And we all want the fast route, right?
Right.
But we're going through, if you're not listening to your intuition, you will go the scenic route. You're still going to get to the end result. And the end result for you was a disengagement from the past to something more that's coming to your heart. And I kept asking, like, you'll know it when it comes. Has it
Yeah.
come yet? And you're like, no, I have no idea.
Yeah. I want to go back and listen to everything from before because I bet it all makes perfect sense now. Can I tell the funny story about how you said you're going to learn a new way of doing business?
Please.
Oh my gosh. So I was prepping for this retreat and I'm going to keep it kind of ambiguous in this story. And Chantel was like, you are going to learn a new way to do business. And I was like, yes, give me the strategies. Like, I am so here for this. And she was like, you're meant to be there. This timing is perfect. This is all aligned. It's all aligned. And so I go to this retreat, not really knowing what anything is going to be. And it's with a dear friend of mine who's leading it, who is so smart, right? And I'll just bring it up because she would love it. So my friend Natalie Ellis is running it. And as a friend, she's like, come to this retreat. It was a CEO Mama retreat. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to leave with this new strategy and I'm going to come out. So I'm like 2 days into this and I am like there with my freaking notebook and my pencil waiting. And Natalie is really into nervous system resetting and feminine energy. And I felt so uncomfortable at so much of this. And I can say this because she knew it. I mean, if I didn't know her personally, I would have left because we were doing a lot of feminine and divine energy things like ecstatic dancing and doing like a lot of like, like seeing each other and inner child work and all these things that just felt like, oh my gosh, like I literally was like texting my friend Amy, like, I am dying right now, but I am committed to this process. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to learn a new way to do business. And so on the final day, we have this like strategy session and I got great takeaways, but like nothing that felt life changing. And I was like, where is the new way of doing business? And I remember being envious of the women who were embodied, like who really didn't care what anybody thought of their dancing, who really were felt safe to just be in their feminine energy. And I remember messaging you from the airport and being like, oh my gosh, I get it. I get it. Like, this was so uncomfortable for me because I have been operating from my masculinity, this idea of force, right? Even in that story of the woman who moves to Vancouver Island, just forcing things to happen in the way I wanted them to happen, that I didn't even know there was another side to the coin. And I literally just remember voice messaging you and being like, I get it. The whole weekend, I was waiting for it to show up in a way that I thought, yes, in the way of a notebook and a pen. And it was a feeling and a way of being and a way of operating that totally transformed and has softened me into this version of myself. But I couldn't see it then. And so that is just one story of like the intervention, but it makes me want to go back and listen to things because there were things that you said that you saw that I could not see for myself that didn't make sense that now are the embodiment of who I am and what I'm doing and what I want to do next too.
I love that. And I think I kept saying to you, like, I feel like something is going to come up from this humanitarian side of you. And a lot
Mhm.
of people wouldn't know how humanitarian you truly are and what you do for your community and what you donate and all those things. And that's your humbleness, which I love so much about you too. But this Aries nature, so for those of you who don't know, Jenna is
Yeah.
an Aries
Yeah.
and she is, but when I met you, that fiery Aries is under wraps a bit. Like I think
Mhm.
it's like it's very humanitarian. It is the pioneer, bold. I mean, of course, an entrepreneur, but this part of you that's really gets to shine her fiery light was under this dome of shoulds of I need to appear this way and do these things. And you told me the story of how you were a diver,
Mhm.
in and hate water.
Yeah.
I
I
was like,
hate water.
what
Yes.
made you do that? And
Yeah.
that conditioning of the good girl, the achieve to receive, like I know that goes back. And one thing I love is you also had a therapist during our time at work. You still do. And I
Yes.
was like, you need to talk to your therapist about this, and you
Yeah.
need to talk to your therapist about this,
Yeah.
because it's that can dive deeper into where did this come from? Because until you release this part of you that wants to prove that you're smart and that you're doing things the right way and you're a good person, then you'll never step into your true, authentic expression of your soul, which I think is now what's emerging from you. And it's
Mhm.
this humanitarian side, like you releasing that everything that you did at that retreat brought
Yes.
in the chickens,
Yes.
brought in
Yes.
the greenhouse, brought in
Yes.
like all of these nesting parts of you that 5 years ago, Jenna would think you're absolutely crazy balls for doing
Totally.
having chickens in your
Totally.
home, but you love these chickens so much. Like
Yes.
that is so exactly you're coming into your divine feminine, and it's not weakness, it's actually
Mhm.
power. And
Mhm.
it's the power to change worlds. And this is where the intuition lies within our divine feminine. And I
Mhm.
know I'm here to usher in the rise of the divine feminine back because we are so out of equilibrium. Like I'm
Yes.
so passionate. I have a Sagittarius moon, so my fire is about to come out. But women have abdicated their authority and their power to people thinking that this is the way you should do it. You shouldn't release your business because that's not smart. But you're not
Mhm.
actually releasing your business. You're moving into a pivot. You're changing into something else. You get to grow and evolve. But that
Mhm.
place of evolution, of transformation sucks. It sucks so bad. I think the universe doesn't, nobody tells you about that. When you
Yeah.
have a baby, everyone's like, oh, you're going to be a mother.
Yeah.
Now, when people, I'm like, you know what? The beginning stages absolute suck.
Yeah.
You're going to have to poop on the table. Okay. I'm telling you, no one told me that when you're pushing a baby out, there's poop that
Yes.
comes out and my husband wiped it away. And I'm like, don't touch the poop. No
Yes.
one told me that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm going to tell you all the things, but I'm going to walk with you through that. So my girlfriend who I love, you have girlfriends like this in your life too, which is who see you. And I was having brunch with her and she said, you know who you are? She tell, you're the light in the dark corridors of transition. You're the person that
Mhm.
shines their light so that people can find their way to their next door that they're going to open. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, thank you.
Yeah.
But it's what I feel like I think it was the most accurate description of my gifts is that I can help you walk through those doors. And with not, it's not an easy time as
Yeah.
you felt it. Like it's your identity is literally being stripped away because what's coming, you cannot take those things into the next stage of your life. And
Mhm.
so as you step now into your second house year, it's about your resources, your money, your what are you putting your energy, your time, your money into? And is it really feeding your goals and values anymore? And so there is going to be a disengaging from the way you've done things in the past. And that's a good thing.
Mhm.
When we make it feel like we're wrong or we're doing a bad thing, or, if I do, let go of this business, as women entrepreneurs can, attest to. I mean, we had a conversation over an app where I was like, I feel like I'm pivoting. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, tell me
Yeah.
the juicy
Yeah.
details. I'm like,
What is
I think
that?
I'm helping women entrepreneurs. You're like, that's not a pivot, she
Yeah.
tell. And
Yeah.
I was
You've
like,
already been doing that. That's a different way to define the work you've done.
it was like, but no, I'm a psychic medium. You're like,
Yeah.
no, like that's
Yeah.
not actually a pivot. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, are you sure?
Yes. Yes.
Because it felt so different.
Well, and that's what's so funny to me is like, I feel like I have reinvented myself so many times at this point that nothing surprises me. But I think that it has been such a entanglement of what is expected and what am I good at and what I've been told I'm good at and what is performance and where do I feel like I'm performing and not actually being, and separating all of those pieces out. And I mean, that is hard work, right? Because it's going back to old wounds. It's going back to the childlike version of you. It's going back to the way you were formed and shaped. It's going back to what people told you you should do or what you are good at. And so, like, I think that is where the hardest work is. But I also think that's where, like, the juiciest parts of life
Gold.
exist,
Yeah. The gold. That's where the
Yes.
gold emerges. I
Yes.
almost imagine it as in my grief support counseling certification, there was a story that was told to us that the Buddhist monasteries in India and in China, they have these gold statues of Buddha. And during the times of war and stuff, invading armies would melt these statues and take them. So to protect them, they would put mud on it to make it look like a mud statue. And they would shore it up and fortify it. And over time, because of vows of silence, they forgot to share that these are actually gold statues. So everyone just thought that these are mud statues, and it's very humble, Buddhist monks to have these mud statues of Buddha. And they were doing a big renovation to a big temple in India's southern or China, and they had to try to move the statue. It was big. It was like many, many feet high. And so they had to get a crane in to haul this statue, and the statue bumped against the wall and it cracked. And when it cracked, the gold came through. And they saw that this was actually a gold statue. And when they started to go around to all the monasteries, they realized these are actually gold statues. So there's a saying in grief is that, what grief does, what transformation does, but grief accompanies every single transformation, every transition, grief is coming because you have to release parts of yourself that are no longer congruent with who you're becoming. And the grief is actually stripping away these layers, this conditioning, these projections that have been put upon you by your earliest caregivers, your school, your teachers, your everything, social media, and you come back to the gold that is your spirit, that's your soul. And that's the place like I love to live in, right? That intuition is the tool of the soul. It's your compass to where you want to go. And so if you don't go back to your intuition, you don't trust yourself, then you're always going to be abdicating your authority to somebody else. And that's why I think intuition work is really the core of our rising as women. And it is the core work that we have to do as women entrepreneurs, because every decision you make that's not in alignment with your intuition, you're going to go the scenic route. Like you're still going to get to your destination, but it's going to be painful. And
Yes.
sometimes we need painful to,
Yeah.
that's the way we're conditioned to live, but it doesn't have to be painful. It can be ease filled, and we get to have abundance, and there's enough to go around for everybody. And I think I just love your heart so much. And I think this new era in your life is just, it's what the world needs.
Thank you.
It really is, because we need more women like you pulling in that direction. For me, I have a very activist heart. And when I saw you posting on social media about the starving children and pieces like that, you saw I was in your DMs pretty quick, and I was like, yes, F yes. Like, this is exactly where your humanitarian heart is leading. I was a little biased, of course, because I love you and I also have a very fierce humanitarian heart. But it's so hard to speak up, because I was going through the comments and I saw people, why didn't you speak up when this happened? And why not? And it's like your pain, you can just see all the pain in the comments, right?
Yeah.
And my heart was hurting for all these people, so many women that I'm like, you're coming for another woman who's speaking up against an atrocity because she didn't speak up for your atrocity. Like, I really want you to hear your own word. I wish we had like a TV show that went around and talked to these people about their pain, and we healed the world in this way, because this division is like, sometimes it's really hard to take as a healer, because you're like, is my light enough to help this world heal? And as I see like you turning on your light in this direction, and many, many others are too, I know you're going to be a beacon of light that's going to welcome other women to stand in solidarity and move in this direction. You're giving people permission to follow their heart as you follow yours too. So I just want to say I see you. And I think you are such an amazing human. I'm glad to be on this earth with you once again in another lifetime together. And I can say it's only just the beginning.
I feel that. And I feel like you said something too, where you were like, when we met, like I was under the mud, really. Like, if you think of that analogy, where it's like, I was under the mud of judgment and messing up online and being public and all of these different things and being criticized and being picked apart and having my looks picked apart. everything, right? Scrutinized. And it's like, now I'm just going to be this gold little Buddha belly because I I don't care. You can try to cancel me, but I'll cancel myself before you ever get the chance because this is just one form of activism. And my real activism has been happening offline for many years. And now I'm finally feeling the courage of like, if you want to try to write me off, go for it. But I will either cancel myself or you can't cancel me. You know, like it's just
Okay, so
knowing that.
are you available for a reframe?
Yes.
Because that's also an old pattern that I
Yes.
will judge myself so harshly so that you can never judge me. So I actually
Yes.
used to say that in my teens
Yes.
that like you can't hurt me because I hurt myself way more. That
Yeah.
is not a badge of love. That's a badge of judgment. I will judge myself harder than you, and that's not going to hurt me as much. You can't hurt me as much as hurt myself. And what love would say to that is, I'm not available for that anymore. You cannot cancel me. You cannot hurt me because you don't have the permission or power to do so. And as soon as you take that magnet out of you, because we are magnets always pulling in to our from our environment, right? It's the
Yeah.
law of attraction. We attract that which we are. So if there's a part of you that's like, well, fine, I'm just going to criticize myself so no one else can criticize me.
No,
Well, then
I
you're
just
still
mean I'll
open.
pull myself out of the race before you can. Like I
Or
have divine ownership over that
yes,
choice.
I love
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
I am not available for that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not available. I'll give you an example. When I first launched my website and my Facebook page, actually, I was like such a big deal because I was still working in corporate and it was called Story of Spirit because I tell the story of spirit and that's my, she tells story. And I hit publish on my Facebook page and I closed it. I was so scared because I'm like, people are going to judge me and all the
Yeah.
things. And then I went back 2 hours later and I opened it and I had hundreds of messages and comments from people I've gone to school with. I was so worried that they're going to be like, you're a fraud. Like, I know you. I went to school with you. But people were like, in grade 5, remember when you were the palm reader at the school festival and you were lined up? Like, I knew then you were a psychic. Congratulations on coming out of the closet. Like, it was message after message like that. I knew it. We knew it. Or someone had said, because it's you, I trust this to be true for you because I know your heart and I know who you are.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And then I got the trolls. You know what the trolls said? Is your name even real? I thought this was a writing page, the story of your spirit, like writing about your story.
Yeah.
You're such a phony. You're trying to bait people in. You're baiting and switching people. And I was like, what? So
Yeah.
this is my real name. And I was in the comments going, no, this is my real name. I married it. My husband's name is Jason Story. Like I married the name.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you're just a phony bananas. And no matter what I said, they would just continue. And it was this, again, this prover energy that I had for so long. And it comes up every now and again, sneaky little bee. And I was like, okay, that I'm no longer open to criticism about my name. You can go right off,
Yeah.
bye. And I blocked and deleted. And it felt so freeing. And I heard this universe said, congratulations, you just hit your next checkpoint. And it's these moments in time when you're just not even available for it. Like you're not, that button is gone. You can't push that button because I don't have it anymore. Right. My husband has a thing around jerk, right? Probably shouldn't be saying this on a podcast, but the word jerk would just send him when we started like dating. And I was like, what is that? Like, I don't call him, like, we don't
Yeah.
use that language with each other, but someone would say, or someone in a car or whatever. And I was like, what is it about that word? I don't care. You could
Yeah.
call me a jerk. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a nice word from the
Yeah.
80s, whatever, buddy. Right. Like, but it's such a button for you. And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, that's not enough for me. So I
Yeah.
started to dig over the years and I was like, I get it. Because his dad used to call people little jerks when he didn't like them when he was little. So he associated with men people his dad doesn't like. And that's not him. His dad loves him. So that word brings up a visceral reaction. So when I said that, I said, do you understand that this is connected back to your dad? And he's like what? And I said, because your dad uses that word, you associated with people that are not good. And so when someone calls that to you, you have a visceral reaction. We all have words like that for us, right? And if it was like something about my weight, I was very sensitive about my weight growing up. So if someone called me anything to do with my weight, I probably would have shrunk. But at this moment in time in my life, I'm no longer available for those words. So you can call it to me and I'll probably laugh because I'm like, I see you. You
Yeah.
can't manipulate me.
Yeah.
So the more we come back to our true nature, that gold essence, you're never going to be open for that again. Like you're so convicted in, I know you know where you're going and what you want to do. And your belief in self, you have such a strong family. I think it's one of the biggest gifts that you gave yourself in this lifetime. I love your family so much. And you also have such a gift of having them all still alive, right? Like you recently lost your grandfather who transitioned to spirit, but you have such a different relationship with him now because you have this awareness of him in spirit. He comes to visit you often,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know that because he's standing with you right now, but we won't get into that piece of it. But I feel like this new stage of your life is you're bringing all of these gifts with you and you have all these wonderful supports, including me. And no matter what happens, you are so strong and convicted that no one, whatever, you could have an opinion on what I'm doing, but you're not doing it. You're just sitting there talking about it. So I see your pain because you feel like you can't do this too. And I'm going to invite you to come do it too.
Yeah. Ooh,
It's
I
the difference of
love that.
leading from love versus fear.
Dang. Snaps for that one. Where can everybody find you and work with you and learn more about you? Give us all the places.
Oh my gosh, I just want to help every woman step back into their intuition. Like, I think the easiest way is my website, shetellstory.com. But I wanted to really help the women listening to this to come back to their intuition. It was really a conviction for me that if you don't have your intuition, you are really following your mind, and the
Yeah.
mind is easily conditioned by all the mud, that's
Yeah.
in your life. And so I wanted to create an intuition activation meditation. Now, I know I can already hear, I can feel the groans from certain people listening, like, oh, meditations, here we are. But actually, what a meditation is just listening to my voice. Think of it as an activation.
Yep.
You're just listening to my voice, and I'm leading you down a story, and you just feel it in your body, or just listen into it, or see if you can visualize it or not. The way that I write my meditations is that it kind of hits all the senses, so that even if you're not a visual person, it doesn't matter. It will still come in. And by the end of the meditation, you can feel your intuition stronger and stronger the more you do it. So a version of that was sent to you when we first started working together.
Yeah.
And I noticed such a shift in you and your ability to step back into your intuition faster and faster and faster, which
Mhm.
has eased your transition to this, new phase of life that's coming in for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. I have that. We're gonna, I think, put it in the show notes, I think
Yes.
we mentioned. So please, like, do the meditation and feel the difference for yourself. And if you don't feel it, no problem. You know what? I'm unattached.
Yeah.
But I like to say to my intuition students is build your book of evidence. Build
Mhm.
your book of evidence. So when your intuition works or you get this nudge and you said yes to it and you see what happens, write
Yeah.
that in your little journal.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out and you went against it or you went
Yeah.
against it, then write it in your journal. Or if you did it and it didn't work out, quote unquote, in the way, write it in your journal and ask yourself, what is this meant to teach me? What
Mhm.
am I meant to learn from this? Because everything is happening in divine perfect time.
Yeah.
It's all perfect. It's all right. When we think we have to get it right, we're in the mind. So all this to say is that would be amazing. I think that if I can help you that way, and then of course, if you're on social media, I'm very active on socials. I'm such an extrovert. So I'm in my DMs all the time and I love to meet new people. So just say hi. And you met me from the Gen X show. And I would be like, what did you learn? What did you take away?
Mm.
I'll ask you that question. So
I
I just want
love
to say
that.
thank you for having me here and such an honor to be in your heart.
Mm.
When you told me that you wanted to have me on here, I cried because
Oh.
it was such a heartfelt, relational, like non-transactional request. And I could feel your heart coming through. And I just want to say thank you. And I love you. And I'm so honored to be your friend in this lifetime again.
Back at you. You changed my life. You were worth the 3-hour drive in the snow where I was holding my mom's hand thinking we are going to die.
No,
Absolutely worth it to the moon and back. Thank you for coming on the show today.
I love you.
I swear I could do 8 episodes with that woman. She has been such an amazing voice and presence in my life. I'm so glad I said yes to that beautiful conference in Canada so that I could meet her. And she has just been a very consistent person helping me uncover the gold underneath all of the mud. I'm so grateful to walk on the planet with her and to do life alongside of her and to be led by her through some of the dark valleys. But I'm so excited to step into the light even more. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you know someone who could benefit, please be a great friend and send it to them. And of course, until next time, gold diggers, keep on digging your biggest goals. Thanks for listening to the Gold Digger podcast. I hope today left you inspired and equipped with something you can put into action as you build a business that truly supports your life. If this episode resonated with you, here's how you can help the show reach even more entrepreneurs. Hit follow, share it with a friend who's building something meaningful, and if you're feeling generous, leave us a review. Those reviews help other listeners discover these conversations when they need them the most. This show has become so much more than I ever imagined, and it's because of listeners like you who show up and share. You are helping build something that will inspire entrepreneurs for years to come. For show notes, links, and resources, head to golddiggerpodcast.com. Keep digging your biggest goals. The world needs what you're building.